Good morning, everyone, and welcome. I am Nifemi Oguntoye. Let's return to the issue of electricity in Nigeria. A few days ago, we talked about the cost-reflective tariff regime and how Nigerians are reacting to what appears to be an unending increment with very little value for what they pay for. Today, we'll tell the other part of the story as we continue to ask the tough questions. We are told Nigeria has the capacity to generate above 12,000 megawatts of electricity if everything works fine. But you know, we're doing less than that as we speak. The figure from last year was an average of a little over 4,000 megawatts energy generated. And of course, we lost about 1.5 of that. Compare that with countries like South Africa producing over 40,000 megawatts, a very small country like Norway with a population of about 4 million, doing some 36,000. Then you can tell that we're far from where we should be. With electricity generation in Nigeria falling below its capacity, perhaps the most amazing and interesting detail, and very disturbing as well, is that the little power we're generating is also being stolen. And that's what we're talking about this morning. We're told that electricity distribution companies in Nigeria lose about 30 billion naira every month. And I'm going to confirm that figure in a short while, to electricity theft. And of course, we're still not talking about vandalism and the rest. I'm joined this morning by the Executive Director, Research and Advocacy, Association of Nigerian Electricity Distributors. Is also the spokesman for all the DISCOs, I believe 11 of them, right? Good morning. I have Mr. Sunday Odunton. Thank you for joining us on the program this morning.
Thank you very much.
Let us begin with an overview from someone who I believe is a stakeholder. How serious a problem is electricity theft to the entire value chain of the power sector?
Well, the issue of energy theft is a very serious problem. Sadly, it's also a reflection of the society within which we operate. The amount of energy theft in the country is mind-boggling. One of the things that Nigerians want most is meters. Nigerians want to be metered. Nigerians want to be able to have, and they prefer prepaid meter in this country because meters come in other form, postpaid or prepaid. But it will interest you to note that there was a time we did a research and we found that as many as 47% of prepaid meters that were installed
are bypassed
in Lagos here were bypassed. 47%. That tells you the level
that was when?
Of the theft. This was around 2016, between 2016 and 2017. But it's a continuous thing. Even now, you'll be surprised the areas where we caught people stealing energy. I mean, when you think about places called GRA in this country, these are places for the rich and the affluents. Ikeja GRA is an example where we once caught a very important, popular Nigerian who diverted most of his air conditioners that were connected through the ceiling directly, which means they were not reading on his meter. So people that were supposed to be paying maybe 12,000 were paying 3,000. And it is all over the country. In Jos, the same thing happened. There's a place called Refid. Refid, again, is a GRA in Jos, Plateau State. We caught a 22-year-old young guy who was helping people, taking 20,000 naira from them, helping them to bypass their meters. Same thing in Trans-Amadi in Port Harcourt. And of course, we caught the same problem. We caught somebody again, a retired PAMSEC in Abeokuta, Ogun State. So we have problem with it under in Ilorin, and you have the same thing in Kano.
But how come it's easy to bypass your meters? Because we've heard about smart grid, the smart metering, which some have said is a solution to electricity theft. Yeah. How come that's not an option here?
It is an option. In some cases, we have some smart meters, but not all meters are smart. Even the smart meters, unless and until you put the telecoms software that will make it smart, it will not be smart. But when they say it is smart, really, what the smart meter does is to be able to speak to the back-end ICT in real life for you to know whatever is going on with the meter. When there's light, when there's no light, tampering and all those things. Yeah, that's the way to go.
How many of that do we have currently? Because the meter that I have in my house, the
Yes.
moment the PHCN guys come to fix it, it trips off completely, and then they have to wait to receive a particular code
Yes.
before I get light back in my house. Is that what you're talking about?
It's part of it, but that's part of what today's meter will do. But there's a higher level of that, or there are more things that same meter can be made to do.
Okay.
And that's what I'm saying. If you have a Samsung phone, you may not be using all the apps, or you may need to buy some app into an iPhone to do certain things that is not currently doing. So we have gone far into this because so far we're better now than we were 5 years ago. And I have no doubt that it will get better with time. But the issue of theft, whether you have smart meters or not, it is still to do with who we are. People need to have a change of mind. People need to desist from stealing. And this is corruption. And it's all around us.
But this time, it's with the people.
So when people complain, even about our staff, my response one time was that, take me to heaven. Go and show me how to get to heaven and come back. Not that I'll go and not come back. Take me to heaven so I can go and hire angels and malaika. Because the people that are working for us are Nigerians. The people that we serve are mainly Nigerians. And it is our own, we need to be more patriotic. We need to know that there's no need stealing energy or anything. Even where we work, there's no point stealing money. So if we all decide today to be honest, because it's a question of integrity. If we all decide to be honest, many things will work, and the money we are losing through energy theft, illegal connection, vandalism, all those money will have been used to provide the needed infrastructure to improve the system that is already dilapidated. So we are all suffering from the effects of energy theft, and that's why we're saying...
We're going to get into the details of that, but I've also heard people say the burden of honesty that you have talked about is on both sides. So on one side is electricity theft for the people. And there are people who would say the estimated billing as it is currently is also a form of electricity theft, where, you know, distribution companies collect more. As a matter of fact, they say the fact that there is no meter means that nobody's measuring anything and there is no accuracy in the billing. Don't you consider that as theft as well?
Well, all I can tell you is that we are more interested in metering than anybody else. And for a fact, where people are metered, there are less argument. There is more cooperation, there's more peace. But where people are not metered, there are bound to be arguments, and this comes in two ways, overbilling and underbilling. It's those who are overbilled that complain, but today is not for billing. I can only repeat that the corruption in the system, once people are metered, all the issue of estimated billing will go away because we don't want it. It is not good for us, and wherever people are metered, there's more revenue assurance. Again, the issue of theft is not about whether you are metered or not alone. Those who are metered do this. Those who are not metered do the same thing. So what we are saying is that even outside the premises where you have the transformer, people go there and vandalize, steal the cables, the uprisers. Once those ones are removed, whether you are metered or not in that neighborhood, you will not have light. So the problem is to do with people stealing energy, people connecting illegally, people bypassing their meters, people paying, offering bribe, taking bribe to compromise the system. That is exactly what the problem is.
Talking about taking bribes, you mentioned earlier that you wouldn't go to heaven to hire angels. But how is management responding to the allegations that staff members of this school, you know, collaborate with people in this regard?
Well, I can assure you that we respond robustly. If anyone reports any of our staff or anything that is unbecoming of our staff anywhere in the country, once we get to know about it, the management of that disco or that area, they will take action immediately. What is very sad, and that happened here in TVC. A few weeks ago, a gentleman was here on Your View program, banding allegations of fraud against disco staff in Abuja. But this man has refused till date to give us the identity, name, or give us an idea of who they are. Because if you see something, say something. If you don't tell us, there's no way that we're going to know.
How do they tell you? How do they reach you?
Oh, we have series of numbers that are available. Even Google any disco, you see the number that you can call to report such things. And like I said, when people talk about bribery and corruption, it involves two parties at the minimum. Somebody give, somebody take. If you refuse to give, nobody can take from you. And if you refuse to take, even if they offer you, you can still say no to. And majority of our staff are honest. Not all disco staff are corrupt, but not all of them are angels. And not all our customers are corrupt, but not all of them are clean. So if people see something, the only way they can help us and help this nation and help this power sector is to report it, to let us know. The problem we have is that people will see this and they will not say anything. I was at a program earlier on this morning. After the program, a woman told me that some people somewhere, she pointed at the direction that they have meter, but they are not paying for electricity. These are the kind of things we need to know so that we can go there, verify those claims, and ensure that proper things are done. If our staff are found to be complicit, we'll deal with them. We've shown the way out to so many of them
in the last 7 years. Exactly what I wanted to say.
Yes.
What is the standard procedure when complaints like this come to you? How do you verify the authenticity of those claims, and what penalties do you have for your
It's very
members?
easy. If a customer reports that one of our staff came to his or her premises and then asked for money or for bribe, once we know the address, there's a way we know the staff that are deployed to that area, that neighborhood. They are fixed, so we can identify the person. But what we do is to follow the rule of law, because we ensure that first we ask the individual to also tell us his or her side of the story. Once we get that, the HR of that particular disco, we go through it. He or she can even involve the union rep. We go through the stages, and once we confirm those things, we have the penalties for each of the offenses, depending on the gravity of the offense. So in most cases, if the person has actually gone out to take bribe or to ask for bribe, outright bribery, that person will be shown the way out of the company, following due process. And we've done that a lot. Practically all the discos. Ikeja here, Eko, a guy in Surulere in 2016 was found to be collecting money from, there was a block of 4 flats with tenants, and they had a borehole. So they had a different account for the borehole. So the 4 flats were metered. The borehole had no meter. This gentleman, this staff, this former staff, was coming to the premises every month to collect money on that borehole and pocketing the money. So somebody informed us, and I informed the then MD of the company. And the investigation was carried out. After the investigation, they found out that it was true. He even confessed. And then we eventually sacked the guy and handed him over to the police. Again, that's where the problem is. We cannot prosecute. We can only act as prosecution witness. We find a staff wanting, we hand over the staff to the prosecution authorities, the police in this case, sometimes the civil defense. It is now left for them to do the needful. And I'll give you another example. In 2014, April 2014 precisely, at Ibadan, under Ibadan Electricity Distribution Company, some guys were caught. They have stolen what we call transformer oil. And I was directly involved, and we took these guys to the police headquarters in Abeokuta, a place called Eliwero, Zone 2. And we provided all the evidence. 4 of them, one of them even confessed. And they confirm the location from where they stole the oil. And transformer oil cannot be used to fry akara or egg. So when you steal transformer oil, there must be a receiver. Somebody somewhere, either manufacturing, refurbishing, or repairing transformer, is the receiver of that transformer oil. And we gave all the thing to the police, 2014, April. I was the chief legal advisor and company secretary of Ibadan Disco at that time. And I went back to my office in Ibadan. 4 days later, I went back to Abeokuta to know how far with the case. The guys have disappeared. Can you blame the Disco for that? You cannot. Have we done what we needed to do? Oh, yes, we did. So it is also the security agencies, the prosecution agencies, and people that are supposed to play their own role, that should play their role. And I'm saying this and I'm appealing to our security agencies, the police, civil defense, and others. Whenever we have a case of energy theft, let's take it through due process, through the courts. Let those people pay for their crime. Again, to the judiciary, they also have a role to play.
Absolutely.
So this thing is a chain. Unless and until people play their own role, there's no magic.
A lot of these malpractice take place when your guys, visit homes and offices to disconnect the power supply when they default in payment. Help us understand what the standard procedure is in relating with them. Do you give them some money while you now go to the office to pay for the bill, in pacifying them not to disconnect your power at that particular time? What is expected on the part of the customers when they come around to do that?
Thank you very much. Before you can be disconnected, you must have defaulted. You must have been served a notice of disconnection. Within that period, we expect the customer to pay. Even if the debt is so much, we have a system in place where we allow you to sit down with our staff and work out what we call payment plan. So which means you pay the current billing plus a bit, an agreed sum as part of the arrears. So going forward, within a specified period of time, we even take up to a year, in some cases depending on the amount of money involved, a year or more, to pay up.
But this window of opportunity is open before they come to disconnect the light?
It's open all the time.
Okay.
Once you are in debt and you have not paid up, you can come forward and say, this is what I'm owing. Okay, let's have a payment plan. I will pay my current billing in full, plus whatever we agree today to be paid as part of the arrears. But before then, depending on how much your arrears is, if your arrears is 200,000, for instance, we can ask you to go and pay 100,000, and then the remaining 100,000, we spread it over a period of time. All the discos do that. And we do that to be able to also show understanding to our customers. We do not like disconnecting people, because once I disconnect you, that is pulling a plug on my own revenue too from your premises. So we give people the opportunity. But what you find is that even when people are disconnected, and I have instances of that where they reconnect themselves back. That's why you see some practices that are not very modern, whereby they go and disconnect people and they carry the cable. It's not something we like. We don't feel comfortable with that. But the environment within which we operate, even when you
have
take
learnt
the cable,
by
they
experience.
still go and get another cable and get an electrician down the road to
right.
reconnect them back. So the issue of theft is just too much.
And that reconnection, you consider it criminal?
Oh, it is criminal. Again, I go back to,
customer.
I'm a lawyer, I go back to the criminal justice system. It is criminal, okay? But the best we can do is to hand over the person to the police. And we all know what happened in most cases. Not in a lot of cases, there are very lovely, brilliant, good, honest, incorruptible police officers out there, and I salute them. But there are still few that once you just hand it over to them, the policeman will tell you, oh, guy, you can go. We'll deal with it. It's their job anyway. Whatever happened thereafter, in most cases, we don't even know.
So for people who bypass their meter,
Yes.
the prepaid meter,
Yes.
it is criminal.
Criminal.
And
yes.
what you're saying is that if such an individual is caught, you hand them over to the police.
In fact, such a person is supposed to go to jail. We need to set examples. We need to make people know that bypassing meters is an offense against the nation. And I'll tell you why. You see, we need electricity. We don't have enough. The few that we have, the people that produces this, these are the generation companies. They also have to pay the gas suppliers. Then the people that transport it, transmission company. The people that distribute it, my own people. Okay, the whole chain, they have to account for the energy. And once this thing is stolen, somebody will now be responsible. And in most cases, we, the distributors, are the ones that have to pay back to the producers of the product. So those who bypass what they are doing, they are making it impossible or more difficult for the nation to have electricity. That's the truth.
So I understand. I have heard people talk about the right tariff and the fact that if we want more power, we have to pay more for it. But do you also understand why people do this? Because the cost-reflective tariff, we have made to understand that it is the way to go if we want better power, better supply of power in the country. But have you also taken time to find out where these things happen the most and why people would want to bypass meter? Is it a function of economic burden? And do you foresee this challenge fester given how the tariff is being increased systematically?
Well, first of all, when people don't have money, the question can now be asked is, can you justify burglary on the basis that the guy who has gone to the next door house to burgle the flat did so because he had no food to eat? He should have food, but should he go and burgle? So energy theft is not an excuse for low-income earners. The country as a whole or the government can look at a system that can make the nation better for all, but that is within the purview of the people that govern us. But to now say because I have no money to feed myself or I don't have enough money, let me quickly go to TVC, steal one of the cameras, and then go and sell so that I can have money. That is theft. That is criminal. So for us, our attention is on crime. The issue of tariff is out of it. In fact, I'm not even talking about tariff because I'm an Egba man. In Abeokuta, we do not celebrate when you have a new baby, you do naming ceremony. So we do not celebrate a naming ceremony for an aborted pregnancy. Once a pregnancy is aborted, there's no naming ceremony coming up. We have to wait until a later date or time when there's conception and the new baby is born, then we can sit down and work out the naming ceremony. So, but I'm saying that energy theft is a crime. People need to desist from it. We need to keep telling Nigerians it does not pay to keep stealing, okay? It does not pay. Connecting illegally through the back door is not good because it's affecting your neighbor. Sometimes your neighbor is even paying for you without knowing. Sometimes we are running the system and there are hundreds, if not millions of people that are not known to us. We do enumeration and it's a continuous thing to try to capture more customers, get to know more people. But my message to Nigerians is, please, if you see something, say something. The difference between us and the developed world is that there's neighborhood watch everywhere. So if a neighbor, even an old woman of 90 years or more, if she sees something that is not good going on in her neighborhood, she will call the utility company or the security agencies and report. Here, people say, no be my business. You have a thief living in your compound or on your street, even in your home. Armed robbers are human beings. They live among us. They are in the neighborhood. There shouldn't be armed robbery if we all make up our mind, to be honest. In Nigeria, there's something I love called CDA, Community Development Association. Everywhere you go, you find it. And I walk throughout the country. I go around the country and I see this. The CDA people, they know everybody in their neighborhood, in their estate, on their street. I expect them to know armed robbers. I expect them to know people who bypass electricity. I expect them to know thieves. I expect them to even know corrupt people. I expect them to know people who are working but living above their means. So if we all work together with the security agencies and with the government, a lot of these things will not happen, or it will be reduced. There's crime everywhere, all over the world. But the difference here is that the crime is so prevalent that people seem to celebrate crime. Because if you know a criminal on your street and you're the chairman of CDA, it is time for you to let the police know. Let them take that guy off that neighborhood, off that estate, off that street. So what I'm saying is that we should all work together to ensure that the incidence of energy theft, because when people vandalize a transformer, most of our transformers, their transformers are not hidden. You won't find a transformer inside the bush. Transformers are always in front of somebody's house, or beside somebody's house, or by the corner on the street where there are people. We need to report crime. We know thieves, and those who are watching us, they know thieves.
We're going to very quickly open the phone lines because I'm sure that many people are very curious about this conversation, and I'm sure you also will have a question for Mr. Sunday Odunto. So our phone lines are going to show very quickly on the screen, and we'll take some calls along this line. Let us quickly talk about the need for energy responsibility, because as much as I know that you do not intend to talk about the tariffs, that's what people want to talk about, because people are concerned about how much money they pay for power. At the time where the tariff is cost reflective, and then it means that we now have to pay more, is there also a campaign for energy responsibility? The fact that we're not likely going to consume or have the luxury to consume as much power as we used to in time past?
Well, my message to Nigerians is that, first let me talk about those shop owners. When you open your shop on a Saturday and you are going home in the evening, there's something they call a security light. That bulb in front of your shop, please switch it off. Why? If you put that bulb on Saturday night, and in Nigeria, in most cases, we don't come to the shop on Sunday, it means that if there is light, that bulb will be on from Saturday night to Monday morning. That is not right. We need to learn to manage energy. If you live in a, say, one-story building or a duplex, if you are in the sitting room watching television, you need to switch off the lights upstairs. You go to most homes, the light in their toilet is perpetually on. Switch it on only when you want to use it. Switch it off when you don't want to use it. But what we find, and why we're interested in metering, and I said earlier on that we are more interested in metering than anybody else. What we find is that those who have meters manage their energy more.
Absolutely.
So we are looking forward, and it's happening. Government is doing a lot of commendable things now. We are working with all stakeholders to ensure, our regulators too are doing wonderfully well to ensure that every household is metered. When you have meters, if you want to waste your energy, you will see it in your pocket. So energy management is very important. And as long as we cannot meter everybody in one day or in 1 year, the same message still remains that we need to learn to manage electricity. In some cases, if you have up to 18 hours of supply, and some people do in these Lagos, there's no point putting your freezer on indefinitely. Once the freezer is frozen, switch it off, because there's no point putting everything on. I know some good people, maybe due to their exposure or whatever, when they're going to work, they switch off the entire light in the house until they come back.
You likely don't say that to
to
people who use prepaid meters. I mean, they can tell how much power is being consumed and how much they're paying for it.
Yes.
So I'm told that we have an issue with the phone line, but if you have a question, you can tag at TVC News on Twitter and at Nifemi Oguntoye on Twitter, so I can take your questions and directly, very quickly to Mr. Oduto. Let's talk about vandalism. We haven't been reporting much of that recently. Is that a pointer that it has gotten better and people are complying?
It hasn't gotten better at all. And we have, during the pandemic, in fact, we had more vandalism than before then. We have reported cases all over the country. And again, another worrying aspect of that, the up-pricer, those cable by the transformer, we caught some guys in Abeokuta. They took it to the bush and burnt those things. Why? Because they sell the copper inside those armored cables or those uprisers. Now, the question is, what happens? Those coppers are received by some other individuals in different markets. Alaba market is one of them, and several other markets all over the country. So those stolen, when the vandals vandalize, they sell on to some people who also sell the copper inside the cable to those who use it to make something else. Again, the receiver of stolen goods are criminals, and they are banned. There are so many among us. That's why I say that the only solution is for a kind of neighborhood watch, which says, if you see something, say something. So there's a need for collaboration. And nowadays, at Discos, we go to CDA meetings every Saturday, and we try to be part of their meeting. We hold meetings with them. Once they have any concern and they report those things, we also work with the security agencies, civil defense and the police, even DSS in some cases, to ensure that whenever we have a problem, we take it to them. And they have excellent people within the security services. They respond and assist us by ensuring that those people are brought to book. But what happens, just like in drug cases, drug dealers send a drug peddler or a drug carrier. A courier is caught at the airport. It shouldn't end there. We need to catch the person sending that courier, because the person sending him is the big man that need to be caught. The receivers of these stolen materials and stolen cables are the ones that need to be targeted. And I'm yet to hear of any receiver that have been jailed in Nigeria in the last 7 years.
You know, another issue is response time, you know, via your customer care, because most people do not intend to tamper with the facility, especially when there is no power. But there have been challenges of getting your people respond on time, because power means a lot to Nigerians, especially if you're running a prepaid and you see that your neighbors have light, but then you can't get PATN guys to come work on your facility over the night. You're probably going to ask for a local, you know, electrician to help you quickly join the light before morning.
Okay.
What is being done to expedite action in
We
that
are doing a lot on that. Every single disco, apart from the fact that we have regional offices in the states that we cover, the area, we also have the business units, and we also have areas, and we bring our offices as much closer to the communities as possible. There's no single community in Nigeria that will have to go up to 4 miles before getting to the nearest disco office. None. None. But the issue is that once this thing happens, there's this mentality of calling Mr. David or Fatai, the electrician down the road, to do the job that ought to have been done by the disco staff, the trained technical staff of the discos. So what we have done is we now have customer care center that is 24 hours now, that anytime people can call and report faults, and we will respond. Even this morning, I was called by a pastor who got my number when I left Channel TV, and the person complained about a problem at Ota, Songo, Tanugu. And immediately, I even connected the person straight away with the IBDC regional people in Abeokuta, and they have connected the person with someone that will deal with it in Ota this morning, and that thing will be done. He has a prepaid meter. And all of a sudden, there will be electricity inside the meter, but there will be no electricity inside his house. But because he's a honest Nigerian, this man chose not to call an electrician to tamper with that meter. And he called us, and today that will be resolved. So we are doing better day by day. We are not perfect. That's why I said the reform process, this reform of the electricity industry that started way back in 2002 with the privatization in 2013 is a long journey. That journey is very long. We're just almost midway through the journey. So it will be getting better. But we know customer care is an important part. And that's why we have invested so much on customer care, whereby people can call different numbers all over the country, any time of the day or night, because we want to be able to respond as quickly as possible. We know that's an issue, and we're trying our best to resolve things.
The point is taken, and we look forward to better days ahead. But let's take a break. Don't forget we have an issue with our phone line, but you can tweet at TVC News NG. Mention at Nifemi TVC. That way I can see your questions. I have Mr. Sunday Oduto still standing by. Let's take a break and return with more. Don't go away.
At TVC News, wherever the big news story is happening, we're geared up to break it. TVC News, first with breaking news.
Thanks for staying with us. We're looking at the issue of electricity theft and vandalism. That is a huge challenge for the electricity sector in Nigeria. Sunday Oduto is Executive Director, Research and Advocacy, Association of Nigerian Electricity Distributors. Thank you so much for staying the course on the program this morning. So there's a lot of conversations that we've had about how stakeholders, especially customers, must take responsibility and show honesty and transparency in their dealing with distribution companies. I like the way you have put it, the fact that we also might be a significant part of the problem. Most Nigerians don't realize that, especially when they look at it from how much power is being generated in the first place. What capacity do we have? Is government doing enough to, generate more? And do we have all the infrastructure on ground to ensure that this is done? But I want us to quickly also emphasize on what you will encourage customers to do when they have an issue with their prepaid meters. Not many people have been captured in that regard, but there are some who have their prepaid meters and who perhaps would constantly have an issue with the operation. Yes, and what channel are they supposed to take? What are you also doing to ensure that they are not frustrated in the process?
One of the things that we have done in the last 5 years, and we're doing, is that we've invested so much money on call centers, 24-hour call centers, such that when a customer calls, you give us your name. If you're a tenant, you give us the name of your landlord and the customer account number and the address. On our system, we will know where you are, we know the address. You tell us what the problem is. Depending on the time of the day or the night, we'll try as much as possible to get our nearest office to your place to come and resolve the issue. Most of us use phones. On our phone, you Google the name of your disco, put call center, even customer care center. There are places, the customer care center are places you can go and tender your issue. They have to resolve it because they also have people above them who are checking what they are doing, and there's somebody above that person above the first person. So we have layers.
I have visited one of the facilities myself. Yes. Well, I'm not complaining, but sometimes it's a bit difficult. The queue is long.
Okay.
And then it takes you time before your issue is resolved. And when you eventually speak with them, depending on how huge your problem is, you are likely going to also come back. So that system, I think, given the year of the pandemic seemed to have shown us that a lot of things can be done easily.
That's what I was talking
seamlessly,
about.
Yes.
That's why I mentioned call center. Instead of going physically to those offices,
you can just
you're better off, pick up your phone, call the call center, tell them what the problem is. They will either connect you to the back end or somebody somewhere, or they will take your number, take your details, and they will assign you an ID number, a reference number, and then they will call you back. Through that, they'll be able to resolve most of the problem without you having to go physically. It is not easy. It is not seamless as it should be, but it's getting a lot better than it was. I had an issue with one gentleman last night who, whether out of ignorance or mischief, said on the social media, on the platform, that nothing has changed in the last 5 years. I think it would be very unfair for anybody to say nothing in this country on this electricity has changed. And I'm not saying this because I work for this body. I'm also a customer of a disco, of two discos, in fact. In Abuja, I'm a customer of AEDC. In Abeokuta, I'm a customer of IBEDC. And I know the constraints, I know the issues, I know the difficulties. even issues with logistics. And the pandemic has even made it worse. But that is not an excuse. We still try our best to keep our shops open. We still work, we still travel, we still make our effort to educate Nigerians, to explain things to them, and to solve their problem. Because if I solve your problem, I've been able to convert a supporter. Because once my service to your household is good, you always speak well of this disco that serves you. So it is not in my interest to alienate you as my customer. We want our customers to be happy. We also want them to report our staff whenever those people are not doing what they are supposed to be doing. Because I agree that in some cases, we have either few lazy people who are not pulling their weight, and we train them a lot, and we're still investing in training because we realize that people need to be continuously trained. Sometimes the way you speak to if you go and report a fault, even if the person cannot solve your problem, the way she speaks to you matters a lot. That can even make you to come back home happier, even though your issue is still there. And you have that glimmer of hope once they tell you we'll do this. Another thing we try to do, once we make a promise that we'll do this at so time, we try our best to do it.
Absolutely. Let us quickly turn our attention to Twitter. The phone lines are not working this morning, so you might have to use Twitter. Our Twitter handle is at TVCNewsNG, but you might have to tag me at Nifemi TVC. It's the only way I can see it from my device here. So Ibrahim Odukoya is saying these people collect money before they install prepaid meter from everyone in Ikorodu, Okeota, Ibeshe community, and fellow landlords can testify to this. Is this part of the corruption in the system that we mentioned earlier?
We have had more than 2, now even 3 different systems of getting meter to customers' premises. At the point of privatization in 2013, we had what we call CAPME. The CAPME system, all these 3 were a creation of our regulator, because we're a heavily regulated industry. Under CAPME, you pay for your meter. They install the meter. You now get your money back through credits that will be given to you. So that was discontinued at a point after a few years. Then we had MAP, Meter Asset Provider, whereby you pay for your meter and that meter will be installed by the meter asset provider. The money you pay is meant for that third-party companies. They are not part of the discos. But this is coordinated by the discos. Okay. And discos, of course, we own the back-end ICT, so we have to provide all of that.
So they actually have to pay some
money? Yes.
Okay.
So the ongoing one, which is just recent, is the National Metering Program, which is an initiative of the federal government. That one, there's no payment upfront for meter, even though those meters still cost money, and a lot of other things have been worked out on how that one will be recovered, you know. So that one, nobody will have asked them for money at Ikorodu. So I don't know the time, the month.
The time frame that
so
another viewer here says,
you know,
I have paid for my prepaid meter via my personal account since December 2020, and I'm still yet to get my prepaid meter installed. And again, the workers of the Ikeja Electricity Company usually collect 7,000 naira before they can install for customers, and is asking why. But let me just take a minute to...
I think I need to answer that.
Yes.
When meters are installed at your premises, the installer is a private company staff, not a disco staff.
Okay.
These meter asset providers are separate third-party companies. So when somebody now say
different from the distribution
Ikeja staff, no, they are different. And please, when people even come to do anything, whether to ask you for money or anything from you,
need to find out
for the ID.
Where are they from? Okay.
You know, ask for the ID card. It has their name and the company that they represent. Okay. So if you see Ikeja Electric, there will be a name there. Write down the name, Papa. But if we see the name, and you tell us what has happened, we bring the person to you, we bring you together, because it is easy, and that's part of what we're talking about. Sometimes other people don't know. Like in some cases, if they have to pay for installation, I'm just saying if, way back then, during MAP, and they think that that money is being paid to the discos. No, it is the company that owns the meter, that is installing the meter, that has to ensure that the meter is installed. So those are the things. But there are more and better clarity now. Going forward, things will be better, and people will be giving better information. But I keep saying, if anybody asks you for money for anything, see the person's ID card, know the person's name. That's why we all have phones. Please, if you are not sure or you're not comfortable about anything, that's why you can always call either a customer service center or the call center of the disco. Please just let us know.
There are loads of comments here, so I'm just going to read them out in chunk and allow you to respond generally to some of them. Why are you people charging 10,000 naira for registration before processing the meter? Is it different from the meter money? I don't understand the customer service. I bought 13 prepaid meters. They installed it all, but activation token for 2 meters is to be regenerated until today. They have not done it, and I've called several times to get it done. Did you get that?
Yes, maybe I can respond to that. First of all, the person who bought 13, Abi?
He said yes.
Okay. Well done to that rich man who bought 13 prepaid meters. That's not a poor man. That's very good. But I'm happy that I'm not happy that he has issue with any of the meters. But I'm happy that he's complaining only about 2 out of 13. That issue with coding, that code issue, is a technical issue. And generally speaking, we have people all over the country sometimes having similar problem. Once you have that problem and it's reported, between the disco and the meter asset provider, the meter installer, those who provide the meter, they will resolve it. Sometimes it's just a software problem. And if it's a major hardware problem, they would then have to change the meter and give him another one. But I'm happy that you have 13, 2 were faulty.
All right, Rachel Akinpelu says, a light that isn't stable and you want to put the fridge off. When you put it off, okay, the fridge will start to defrost and then she goes on and on.
I think I get her point.
Okay, I think she was referring to
what I said. I said if you have 18 hours or more of electricity, more often than not, your freezer, I even mentioned freezer, not fridge, your freezer will be frozen. To manage electricity when you're leaving home, switch it off. When you come back, put it on. It will not be defrozen by then. But if your supply is very poor, then she's right.
She also mentioned that not everyone who has a meter in this CDA that my guest is talking about, that not everyone in the CDA has meters. And he's talking about them splitting bills based on transformer. My guest called the bulb a security bulb. Why should it be put off? Rather, a motion-sensitive bulb should be installed. But putting it off will not have it do its job. You remember that comment that we made about power management? I think that's what that
I said, if you are leaving your shop on Saturday night and you know you will not come back until Monday morning, the only sensible thing to do is to switch off the light. If you now think what you need is a sensor motion bulb,
you can acquire that.
And that's for you to acquire. All over the world, there's no utility company that buy you bulb. So that is not my responsibility. I'm just saying that we need to manage electricity. The little that we have, let's manage it so that others can use it when we are not using it.
Nigerians are ready to pay for the prepaid meter, but how come financial constraint is still a major issue in the lack of metering? One of my meters is given free light, not reading, and I've complained. Up to now, no solution. I don't want IE to think I touched the meter.
Well, I will encourage the person to call back this studio and get my number. If I'm able to speak to the person, we will resolve it ASAP. Whoever was it at Ikeja Electric who got that complaint and didn't do anything, because I'm sure the person did not escalate it. I can vouch for the Ikeja management. They will not want there to be that continual losses from that premises. If he says his meter is not reading and he's having electricity, that's one of the major problems that we have. And I'm happy he's honest enough to have admitted, to have said that. And that's why he should please get in touch with TVC, get my number, let's talk about it and we'll resolve it. And I thank him very much for being so patriotic to have
You can
even
send
come
me a
forward and say
DM.
this.
I have Mr. Oduto's card, then I can. Which of these numbers should I give you?
No, I would rather prefer they call you and then you give them my number.
Your number, yes.
Privately.
Exactly what I'm saying, that if it
Yes.
DMs me and then
Yes,
I can.
the first number, yes.
The first number on this card.
Yes.
All right. From Onibudo Akute, why is PHCN demanding for money to install a new transformer, which we even bought with our money?
Well, again, I'm here to talk about energy theft. And I will not go on belaboring things to do with other things. The only point I can make about that is that in this industry, we have a regulator, we have regulations, and we try our best to abide by the regulation. We follow all the rules. Wherever any customer feel aggrieved, once you talk to us and you are not satisfied with what we are doing with you, report out to our regulator. That's why they are there, and they will do the needful. So for me, I'm more concerned with how we can all work against energy theft so that we can all have more electricity. Because energy theft is making it difficult for us to have light. You can't have electricity if more than half of what you are supposed to have is being stolen. And if those things are stolen, there's no way we can have the required funding to be able to reinvest and renew the infrastructure that supplies with electricity. That's why the issue of energy theft is the main thing now and is most important for now. But I do understand anything that is of concern, your first approach is to speak to the undertaking office. That's what they are called, the nearest office to you, the small ones. If you are not satisfied, business management office, business manager office, or regional office, or head office. If not, and you have called the customer care, or you've gone there, or you call the call center. If you are not satisfied, NEC is our regulator. And we have NEC foreign offices all over the country.
Where you can make a
report
complaint.
us. Yes.
We have to go now, Mr. Odunton. I'm just going to take two more tweets that has to do with the call centers that we've talked about. This is from William Zudo. Good morning. In respect to the call center, they had to respond and pick up calls. I then went to the Okota office to lay a complaint on my meter. Since the first week of October 2020, they kept telling me they would send someone to fix the light. And Rolex says, I sent several messages to customer care and even wrote a letter to be disconnected because the bills are outrageous and dispiriting. It's like monkey they walk, baboon they chop. We kindly need Mr. Oduto's bill. We have to go now, but how do you respond to all of these comments? And
well,
on the final note, what do you say to your customers?
First of all, on a final note, I would like to apologize to Nigerians who are not being well served. Because it's not fair if you are patriotic, you are not a thief, you want to pay, yet you are not getting the service that you require. So my apologies. One of the reasons why we go out to do this outreach is to enlighten people and take feedback from them. I had Okota now, and I know where Okota is. And I know the disco that covers Okota. I can assure you, I'll go back to them and let them know what's going on in Okota. So once we get these feedbacks, we'll work on it because it is our own desire for our customers to be happy. Because once the customers are happy, the job becomes less stressful for me and my colleagues because I don't have to be going around and, you know.
Absolutely.
So I apologize where you have poor services. I also appeal to people who have good services but who are stealing to please desist from stealing. Let us work together for Nigeria to work for all of us.
Absolutely. We have to go now. Mr. Odunto, you have to come back. Oh, there are a lot of tweets here to be answered.
Yes.
And when next you come, we're going to talk about all of the issues together.
Yes.
So the Twitter handle is at TVC News NG, tag at Nifemi TVC. We are done with the show now, so we are hopefully going to hope that it returns sometime soon, and then we can talk about more of your complaints. Sunday Oduto is Executive Director, Research and Advocacy, Association of Nigerian Electricity Distributors. He's also spokesman for all of the 11 discos. Thank you once again for coming.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much.
That's our show today. Well, thank you for being a part of it, and we'll be back tomorrow, God willing, with another one. I am Nifemi Okuntoye.